Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the webinar. Um, so today we're going to have a webinar on your strategy to crack entrance exams in 45 days. So today is the first of the webinar series, and we're starting with design. The webinar will start at 6:30 p.m. and will go on till 8:30 p.m. All the attendees are put on listen only mode, which means uh, you can only listen, and if you would like to type your answers out or your questions out, you can type your question. If you like to um, if you're using a webinar system for the first time, you will get a small button where you can raise your hand or where you can ask a question, or you could also chat. So let's just do a trial with everyone. If everyone can hear me, please click on please type out yes. Yeah, Raghav Lakshman can hear me, Sahil Gupta can hear me, right? Fantastic. Fantastic. All right. All right. So we'll be starting at 6:30, so another 10 minutes or 9 minutes, and we'll just wait until then. And once the webinar starts, I will give you all a brief about what's going to be covered, who's going to be presenting, and um, how you can work towards a 45-day plan, considering we don't have much time left for the exam. So what I will do is I will hold on for the next few minutes. I'm glad you all can hear me. Um, yeah. So in case you need to ask a question, you can also raise your hand to ask a question. And once you ask a question, you can type out your question. Kavya is asking what do we have to study for UCEED and NID? All right. We'll be covering this during the exam, during the webinar. Suchitra is asking, how do I clear SEED or NID in 45 days? Which type of material I need to study to clear these exams? So Suchitra and Kavya, what we'll be doing is we will be covering these topics. Suchitra, the primary topics that would be covered in today's webinar would be for NID UG as well as seed USEED. Okay, but a lot of these topics will be common, but there's been a lot of requests to have a separate webinar for the PG programs. Okay, so we'll be covering the PG programs in another webinar, which we will announce in a few days. But for now, what we will do is we will cover the NID UG and UCEED, but um, we will also but these a lot of these topics are common for you, Suchitra. A lot of these topics are common for you, so you can still most definitely participate in this webinar. It will still help you out. Sana Gill is saying, would you be telling us the topics we'll have to cover in this time crunch? Of course, of course. We'll be not only telling you the topics, but we will also be giving you a preparation strategy. Okay. The idea is that in these 45 days, um, if you go through DQ Edge, okay, there are over 300, there are about 250 topics over that, over 250 topics that you need to cover. Okay, so this is a lot to be covered, and you need to do things on priority, right? How do you prioritize? How do you come up with a strategy? And each one has a different strategy. Each of you will have a different strategy. Each of you will have different constraints, different timelines, and how do we give each of you a personalized strategy? That's what we're working towards. And we hope that you can utilize this time, focus on the most important topics, and then uh, be well prepared. Okay? Let's see, there are another 4 minutes left. Okay, how do we study GK for the NID exam? Any study suggested books or sites? So now, yes, thanks for the question. We'll be addressing that one as well. Okay, for sure we'll be addressing that. But I'll make sure if any of y'all have any questions, you type it out now so that we can also understand from you um, what questions you'll have on your mind and how we can address all these questions during the course of the webinar. Okay. So the webinar is going to be structured primarily to give you guys a strategy. We'll also be talking um, about how you can use the DQ Edge platform, and we'll also have a question and answer session at the end of it. I will just mute myself for a second before we start. So Jeanette Patrao is saying, any resources for knowledge-based questions in UCEED? Online preferably. Okay, I think it's time we can start the webinar. Firstly, welcome to everyone. Thank you so much for making it here and taking time out to spend with us. We're happy to have this webinar for you. We as DQ Labs and DQ Edge as well, we have been um, mentoring students to get into NIDs and NIFTs and all the architecture schools, both within India and abroad. Okay, and we have students all across the globe in the top schools all across the globe. Okay, um, I'll spend about 2 minutes just giving you a background to us and who will be conducting this webinar. So, yes, as DQ Labs, every year we have fantastic ranks, fantastic students, and we always work towards something better, okay, to make your studies much easier. Now, we have also developed a platform called DQ Edge, and I will show that to you in a bit. Okay, so this is the DQ Edge screen, and I'm guessing all of you all have access to this. We will get into the details of DQ Edge in a little while, but uh, coming back to this, we have Mr. Shaun D'Sa. Shaun is a designer, and he's a designer from IIT Delhi. Okay, and he's finished off his design from IIT Delhi way back in 2004. Post which he worked with General Motors, and he was handling a lot of the all the global programs for General Motors. So the Hummers, the Buicks, the Cadillacs, you name it, he's worked on it. Okay, so Shaun comes with number one, rich academic experience of going through the design entrance exam, getting into an IIT, going through the entire IIT program, and then getting into industry, working with some of the top brands in the world, okay, working on some of the latest cars in the world. Before he came back, he gave that all up to pursue his passion for education. Shaun started DQ Labs along with Umesh from their home. They used to stay together. Okay, they used to both work with General Motors, and they started DQ Labs from their home way back in 2006. And um, and Umesh went on to Jaguar Land Rover in the UK. Okay, so he's worked with all the Jaguar JLR brands. Okay, and but both of them have been tremendously passionate about education and think that they can contribute a lot to education, and that's what they've been working towards. And both of them are the brains behind DQ Edge, which is the learning platform that's available to all of you. And yeah, so now the overall idea of this webinar again is to see how we can crack the exam in 45 days, and I will be handing it over to Shaun. Shaun, I will be making you a presenter in now. Shaun, you can go ahead.
I hope I can. Yes, can I be heard? Dion, can you hear me? Hold on.
Yes, I can hear you. So if everyone else can hear, please type in yes.
Hold on just a second. Hello.
Shaun, everyone
Dion, can you
hear
say
you.
something?
Yeah, all of us can hear you. You can go ahead.
Just a minute. Give me a minute, please. 1 minute. Okay. Hi, everyone, and this is welcome to this webinar where I am going to be talking about. I'm going to cover topics on what is covered for these exams, a little bit of tricks, maybe a little bit of issues and problems what students face, or what to look out for. Small things, but can be quite useful. And if you have any questions, you can ask me in the end. So basically, I'm going to concentrate this session mainly on the undergraduate program. That's the NID undergraduation exam and the UCEED instead of the SEED. We will have another session for the Masters, SEED, and NID PG in this coming week. You can look out for when the webinar is going to be held. But those of you who are answering the PG and exams and are on the seminar, there is still a lot of common topics, a lot of common theory, general knowledge topics, and so it'll be helpful for you to attend the seminar as well. Okay, so just a quick recap. Your exam is going to be held on the 6th of January, and your UCEED exam is going to be held on the 19th of January. And your just a reminder for those who have not yet applied for your NID, your last date is on the 23rd of November. Of course, UCEED, the admission date was over yesterday. Okay. Now, the most important place to get your information, to get knowledge, your basic knowledge, to get an orientation is obviously from the official websites. And I'm going to be referring a lot to the official websites of both NID and UCEED, because there's nothing like getting the authentic source for, let's say, for example, a prospectus or even a test paper. You can see on the screen here where my mouse is the last year's test paper, BDes, MDes test paper is there. So those of you who have not seen the test paper in the first place, this is the first thing you should do. Okay. Go through this entire test paper, try to solve it. Now, what happens here is sometimes some of you, okay, let me also show you the UCEED paper as the UCEED official downloads as well. So this you can see on my screen is the NID website, the official website, where you have the paper out here. You also have the prospectus and the handbook, which you can read. And also, if you go to the UCEED website, that is UCEED.iitb.ac.in, this is the official website. And what's amazing here is you have all the past year's question papers right up to 2015 with the answer key. Okay. This is the most valuable resource that you can access or practice. Now, the first thing I would highly recommend is download any of these papers, okay, and answer these papers. Now, what happens is many of y'all think, you know what, let me finish studying first, and you want to save these papers for later, so that I will, after I study, after a month, let me see how many marks, how much marks, how well am I doing in these papers. No, that's a wrong strategy. It's whether, even if you have not started studying, nothing, first answer this paper, download this paper, print the paper, answer it, time yourself for 3 hours and answer the paper. And in 3 hours, calculate your total marks and see how much you're getting within the 3 hours, okay? After the 3 hours, of course, you can still go ahead and answer the paper, but whatever you answer the paper after 3 hours does not count, okay? Because that does not count for your marks. Now, why should I do this? Now, the most important part in answering these papers, that is both the UCEED paper as well as the BDes paper. You can see this BDes paper, which is, of course, I've clicked on this link here, and I got this BDes paper out here. The most important part about answering these papers is, first, you know how much you do not know. What does that mean? So first is a realization as to where you are, where you stand, how much you need to study, what kind of GK questions are being asked, what kind of mental ability questions are being asked, what kind of drawing questions are being asked. Obviously, you know that there is no drawing in UCEED, so, but from the NID part. What is the level of difficulty, okay, and is what you need to know when you answer these papers, and number one. And number two, most importantly, is where do you stand, okay? Number one is how much knowledge do you have, or how slow you are at possibly answering these questions, something like that. So therefore, I would highly recommend, if you've not done that, this is the first thing you need to do: download these papers, print them, and start answering these papers, okay? Now, of course, so you all are lucky this time. They have the admissions. I do not know if you all have read this in the handbook, but admissions for Bhopal and Jorhat are open for NID, as well as for UCEED. IIT Hyderabad has also started the UCEED program this year. So there are technically three more institutes added on. So the number of seats have increased for NID as well as for UCEED, giving you a better chance to take a shot at these exams. Anyway, now I will start by say I want to start with the drawing section of this exam, and then I will go into the theory part of the exam. So the first thing about drawing, okay, is, or first thing about this entire exam is how to manage your time, okay? Managing your time is the most important part of this exam. So many times I've heard students saying, I knew the answer, I knew the question, but I didn't have time. I mean, that is a disaster. So if you are not able to manage your time or plan yourself well, then it's really bad. Because if you know a question and you knew, like for example, drawing, you can't go wrong. You can't say, oh, I do not know this question. I mean, you can draw anything. Okay, maybe your drawing may be bad, but you can't say that I do not know how to answer this question, okay? So, and drawing is something which is your total advantage, because drawing is, you can answer the full 30 marks of drawing. When I say 30 marks, I mean 30 marks for the NID exam, and it all depends on how much you practiced and your skill that you can maximize, okay? So managing your time is very important. We will have a look at the breakup of marks and see how best you can manage your time out there. The second part is, an important thing is, don't miss any question. Like, for example, I've just taken a printout from the net, the same place where you saw the booklet of last year's exam. And if you see this, there are 2 pages here, and if you see the next slide, this is the last page. So it so happened that some students didn't realize that there's a question on the last page as well. They thought this was the end of the booklet. And since, if you see this, let me zoom in here, you can see this question has got like 2 parts. It's got an A and B. I do not know if you can, yes, you can clearly see that. I want you all to go on this. Okay, I will actually go to the official paper, which is here. Okay, here. Okay, so I'm going down to the very last question. So if you see here, question number 66. Can you see this? Question number 66. Okay. Now, question number 66 has been split into 2 parts. That is A, rescuing the mother, and B, okay, So what some students thought that this is question number 66 and this is question number 67B, okay? And then they missed this class question, of course, because it was printed on the back of the sheet, back of the booklet. So please be careful. Even though, for example, if I go right up to the top, can you see here? It's written subjective type, question 65, 66, 67. It does not mention here that 66 is A and B, okay? But in the actual answer paper, there were two sections, that is A and B. So please be very careful, especially in the drawing section, which is 30 marks. Make sure that you look at the question numbers carefully and you have not missed any question, okay? At least towards the end, you need to check, okay? So let's have, and so if you look at your NID paper, this is the NID paper. It's got two parts out here. One is the objective type questions, and of course, next is the subjective type questions. Read all these instructions before you go for the exam. Read the NID handbook before you go for the exam so that you don't have to waste your time reading all these small things in the exam, okay? And of course, your total exam is 3 hours. And in the NID, obviously, you can start with any section first, or you can jump to any of the sections during the exam. And the total marks is 400 marks, okay? Now, if you look at the marks here, if I add these marks, that is for part B, it comes up to 30, okay? That is 30 out of 100. So obviously, you need to spend close to or little less than 33% of your time, or not more than 1 hour for your exam, okay? So if I go for 60, so I have 60 minutes to answer these 30 marks, which literally means that for every mark, I have 2 minutes, okay? So if it's a 10-mark question, you cannot spend more than 20 minutes for that question. So if it's a 6 marks question, you cannot spend more than 12 minutes for the question, obviously, because there is no point in, let's say, question number 67, I've done it really beautifully. I've spent like 40 minutes to do it. And then question number 65 and 66, I rushed through. In reality, 65 and 66 is going to give me 24 marks, and 67 is going to give me 6 marks. So, and if I spend 40 minutes out of my 1 hour for 67, then that's like not very smart. And these things tend to happen in the exam. Sometimes you don't realize it. So therefore, when you practice now, it's extremely important that you practice along with timing. So yes, there are two stages in your preparation for these exams. The first stage is obviously, of course, you need to get your basic skills right. You need to get your basic aptitude, mental ability, and your general knowledge in place. But the second part is to understand how to crack it with time, which is the most important. At the end of the day, what you answer in the paper is all that counts. What you know and you didn't throw in there, it doesn't really matter, okay? So keep that in mind, 30 marks, keep it, make sure that you do not go more than 1 hour, because for the other 2 hours, the other 70 marks or the objective type questions was also an area where you can really score. So ideally, what would be good, a good strategy to answer your NID exam would be first to go through your objective type questions, okay? Like say, for example, here, go through all these objective type questions. So some of the questions, it's very simple. Either you know it or you don't know it, right? It's very easy. If you read the GK questions, either you know it or you don't know it. So there's nothing much to think. Of course, some of the mental ability type questions, you need some time to think. So what I would recommend is quickly go through the first section of the exam, answer all the questions that you know for sure, and you can always mark. So they fall into 3 categories. You know for sure, you're trying to guess, or you need to really think about it, or break your mind later on. So answer all the questions that you know for sure. So you've gone through it once, and you've got marks for at least what you know. So like say, for example, the closest descendant of the Tyrannosaurus Rex that still lives today, question number 13, yes, we know it's the bird, right? So click it. It will not even take you even 5 seconds. Just read the question, click it, and go ahead. So at least you've finished quite a bit. Once you've done that, then I would recommend go for your drawing part of the question, where you finish your drawing, because this is also an area where it's more like your fundamental, it's your foundation where you can really score as much as you can in those 30 marks. And especially, see, some of you are very, very strong in drawing. Drawing is your strength. If drawing is your strength, make sure that you really smash this area, okay? So after you've gone to the first glance, go to the drawing part, make sure that you do this well, but at any cost, do not take more than 1 hour. It's going to eat into your other part when you have to come back here and do the rest of the question. So that's what I would say, draw fast now, okay? And of course, if we just have, like, say, a quick glance at the kind of drawing questions that are asked, these vary on, like, say, for example, art-based questions. What are art-based questions? They are totally only checking your art skill, okay? So there are art-based questions, there are creative thinking-based questions, there are aptitude and creative thinking-based questions, there are creative writing-based questions, observation, different types of questions that could be asked, and of course more than this, but let's just have a glance at these important ones. Like, say, for example, an art-based question will be, draw a shoe stepped in mud, okay? So obviously, not only you need to be good in your basic object drawing, you need to be good in textures. So, or draw your face age 5 today in age 50, okay? This is a very typical art-based question. A creative thinking-based question will be, like, say, for example, you have thrown beans into a garden and you get up the next day and you see something mesmerizing. So this is an open-ended question. Why? Same when you are able to identify a question, whether it's a creative thinking based or an art based or an observation based. Like, say, let me give you an example. If I give you a question saying that, give me different ways to use a bottle cap, okay? Say an aluminum bottle cap, a regular soda bottle cap, or a Pepsi bottle cap, an aluminum, the older ones. You could say, I can use it as a earring, I can use it to toss a coin, okay? But the same question, if I say, give me different ways to use a bottle cap, however, this time you can scale it or enlarge it to any amount, or you can change the material. Now, immediately it becomes a very open-ended question. So I can scale it to the size of no, that's okay. Yeah, okay. No. Okay, so yes, you can scale it to any amount, so therefore it becomes an open-ended question. For example, you can say that it is like a space station, okay? So the same bottle cap can be the size of a space station or whatever it may be. But bottom line is, your creative thinking kicks in. So you should be able to identify what are creative thinking based questions and what are art based. In fact, creative thinking based questions is the most fun questions to answer, and it is the question where it's a type of questions where you can really show your talent and really show your skills here. You know, you can push things to the limit. So usually I'll always like these creative thinking based questions. Of course, the other type is aptitude. Now they've recently thrown in a little bit of aptitude and a creative thinking based question. What does this mean? Like, say, rescue a family from the first floor during fire. If you go back to the question that was asked last year, which is there on this on the sheet on over here. So what it says is, if you see question number 66, it says there was a fire on a first floor of a building, and there was a middle-aged mother with 2 children aged 4 and 5 were trapped in the balcony of the first floor. Now, you need to rescue these people, and all you can find is a scooter, a 5-foot-tall ladder, and a nylon rope of 12 feet. There's a little bit of aptitude sense here also, because you know, okay, approximately, let's say a first floor of a building should be, let's say, not more than 12 feet, 10 to 12 feet. And you have a rope of 12 feet, you have a ladder 5 feet tall. So a ladder 5 feet tall is not going to be of so much of use by itself. Obviously, you have to add something to it. So you have to put a little bit of aptitude, and as well as you need to put some creative input for this question. Okay, like you could also possibly use people in the neighborhood to help out, like in terms of height. Maybe you can even create like a human ladder or something like that. That's up to your creativity, but it does have some logical and aptitude constraints as well in this question. So this is something that you need to understand and answer this type of questions. Okay. So of course there are also creative writing where they can give you images, they can give you paintings, they can ask you for captions, mood, or write a story, write an interesting story. So this also is somewhere where you need to think, you need to write down you know, paragraphs or something like that, which also comes under these kind of questions. So please understand that they can vary from year to year, and if you understand the fundamental way of answering these questions, that should be good enough for you to you know, answer this type of questions. Observation, they can also give you parts of something, parts of objects, and you have to they'll give you a small part of it, of an object zoomed in, and you need to look at that object and kind of draw the entire thing. So these are different type of questions that can be asked, of course. Now the whole point is, how can I, either I am good in my drawing or I am not really, still not yet that good in my drawing. So how do I prepare myself in the next 45 days? Let's work backwards. The backwards is ultimately it's speed sketching. Okay, this is the most important. The point is you got to draw fast. Okay, to give it to finish things in that given amount of time. Which means that, let's say, for example, if I'm drawing a scene, okay, or if I'm thinking. So I've seen some students, what they do is they've not even finished the entire basic layout of the page or whatever they want to draw, but they'll start, you know, putting a lot of shade, shadow, textures. Let's say it's a creative thinking question, without even finishing entire thing. Like say, for example, if I say, give me 10 ways to use a pencil other than writing, okay? So instead of first finishing, or let's say 6 ways, okay? So instead of first finishing the first 6 drawings, okay, what some will do is take a lot of time in their initial drawing. So what I recommend is first finish your drawing, first finish your layout before you come back and do your sketching and detailing and shadow and things like that. It's better to have something on the page for all the questions asked rather than a few questions really answered well and you've missed out on something. Once you've finished your basic sketch, once you've finished your basic presentation of the sketch, then you can always come back and add shade, shadow, textures, detailing. You can, if you have time, you can add more, but make sure that at least you complete the different types of questions. So like I said, working backwards, speed sketching is the most important. And from here, based on your skills, your you know, your ability, I would say make sure that obviously that you're good in your perspective, because perspective helps a lot, especially for interiors and exteriors and environments, and even for objects. Make sure that you're really good in your perspective, understand it, it's very logical. Yeah, so avoid using scales and erasers too much, because scales really slow you down. Try and draw freehand without scales, without erasers. It really helps improve your speed. Okay, human and animal is another place where it can really be tested out here. So practicing human and animal really helps. That is also some especially, say for example, human hands in different poses, human faces, human expressions. A lot of people, and another thing in drawing is, if you're finding something difficult, don't like run away from it. Try and see if you can attack it, right? And try to go back to the fundamentals and see if you can solve the problem. Okay, just give me a minute, please. Hold on. Okay, sorry about that. Somebody left a phone here, so I just took it out of the room. Okay. 2D graphic. Now, 2D graphic is another place where a lot of online, a lot of online study really helps. Like when I say 2D graphic, I mean posters, logos, book covers, things like that, pictograms. All this really helps if you do like an online study, for example. In fact, a lot of students ask me if I can show them examples. So if you go to Pinterest, like in.pinterest.com/dqlabs, I've actually put up a couple of images here for 2D graphics. So the link is in.pinterest.com/dqlabs, and there's a lot of both. There's another way to go there. You can just go to the DQLabs website, and if you scroll to the bottom, you'll get a Pinterest link there, and you scroll to the bottom, the footer. You'll get the Pinterest link. So you click on that, and you'll get a lot of samples that I've put here of different types of 2D graphic work. So, say for example, there is say character study. Okay, like say character study. Okay, so. Okay, there's a lot of character study here and things like you can go through some interesting things like, say, for example, this character out here. So this character is, even though he looks like a big, dangerous robot, he still seems very gentle and nice with his with the birds, and he seems to be very amused with the birds. Anyway, I put a lot of examples out here, and more importantly, I wanted to show you some 2D graphic work. Yes, book cover, poster covers. So the best help for 2D graphic is an online net study. So see things like this, right? This really helps to create posters, because 2D graphic is very different. It's an abstract world. An abstract world is not something that you think of naturally. Even when we draw, like say for example, you look at this dog. When we are drawing, our minds tend to go towards 3D or realistic, but in a 2D graphic world, there are no rules, there's no gravity, there's a lot you can play with. So this is something that you need to take advantage of. Automatically your posters, your book covers suddenly start looking so much better. Also, I have put another board here, like hold on. Okay, yes, like graphic logos, things like that. So it really helps to do a net study on 2D graphic. It's something very useful. So not only here, you can just go online and type in like awesome book covers, awesome logos, awesome posters. For example, like previously there was a poster question given like, design a poster which promotes healthy eating amongst teenagers, where you have to use a turtle and a burger. So this kind of questions. Or another question is, you are 1/3 human, you are 1/3 machine, you are 1/3 endangered species, and you can't decide to go whether you want to go into the past or into the future. Yeah, of course, you can draw that in a 3D style, but let's say the same question, they say draw a poster, and then you can kind of draw it like in a very 2D graphic. So the point I'm trying to stress on here is 2D graphic is a completely different style, and it's something where a lot of net image really helps. So make sure that if you don't have basic time, okay, if you're not so good in your artwork, don't worry, it doesn't really matter. At least make sure that you're able to do your basic, proportion, scales, put things into perspective, because sometimes even the way you think here helps more than your actual artwork. So unless, of course, it's a purely art-based question, like we discussed earlier. So these are some these are some basic important points that you can keep in mind in the drawing part of the exam. Now, we can come back to that later if anybody wants more questions on the drawing part, but let's go towards more towards the other part, or the most important part of the exam, which is your mental ability and aptitude. And of course, for UCEED, this is like almost 100%. Okay. Now, before we go there, there's just some subtle differences that I want to. Let's have a look at both papers, the UCEED and NID. So here it is basically objective type, and you have no negative marks out here. Whereas in the UCEED paper, let's where's the UCEED? Okay, let's open a question paper out here. So if you look at the UCEED paper, please make sure that, of course, you go through this and understand this carefully. You have three different types. You have a numerical answer type, you have a multiple select type, and you have a multiple choice type of question, okay? So it's section C that is there for the NID exam. Section C is common between NID and UCEED, but section A, numerical entry, and section B are different, okay? So let's go a little bit into detail and see that later. But before we go there, now, say for example, the section C has a negative marking here, okay? Can you see that? -1. But actually, section C is the easiest as compared to section A or section B. So I would highly recommend go with section C first in your UCEED exam. Why? Even though, yes, it has negative marking, the difference between, okay, the difference between section B and section C is, in section C, there are 4 questions, it has to be one of them, okay, you know for sure. Whereas in section A, you have to answer, you have to enter a numerical answer. Okay, let's look at that. For example, this one question. This is the numerical answer type, okay? How many different types of characters appear in the figure given below? So you need to count the number of characters that are there in the figure, and you need to enter a numerical answer. So this is, it could be 4, it could be 6, it could be 8, it could be many things. So or let's have a look at another one. How many lines are there in this given image? Okay, so again, there could be a certain number, but however, this is an easier one, so something like this you can answer faster. So I would highly recommend go to section C first, and even in section C, only answer the questions that you know for sure. Okay, answer the questions you know for sure, answer them. You do not know for sure, leave it. Okay, in fact, you can mark it in the exam. Go through the interface. Every time the UCEED has an interface where you can log in and you can check. So make sure that you go through the interface before you go to the exam, okay? So yes, after section C, then I definitely recommend you go to section A, because section A is easier to answer, and even in section A, there are easier questions that you can answer, and you more or less can get the number for it. But I would definitely recommend using section B last, because this is multiple select questions. Sometimes this can be a little confusing, because multiple select question is if there is like out of A, B, C, D, if A, B, and D are correct, you must take A, B, and D. So even if you partially get it right, so there is no marks for that. Of course, towards the end, what you can do is come back to section A and B, and you can come back to also the plus point about section A and B is section A and B have no negative marking. So make sure towards the end at least you click on something for section A and B, and section C, unless you know it, do not click on it. Okay, so that's just the basic differences between these two exams. Like I said, make sure that you print these question papers and go through that. So let's glance into the syllabus pattern for these exams. You have like mental ability, analytical reasoning, visual spatial ability, general knowledge, math, English, and of course design sketching. They will ask you theory on design sketching and things like that. Okay. GK. A lot of people ask me about GK. How do you study GK? How do you go about GK? Okay. Now, I would say typically GK has two parts to it. One part which is pretty predictable, and the other part which is quite open-ended. So, of course, if it's open-ended, I'll explain what I mean between predictable and open-ended. Say, for example, the predicted one will be like, okay, famous art and artists. Okay, a very typical kind of question, quite commonly asked often in these exams. Say, let's have a look at a question. Another thing is, I would also highly recommend students of UG also go through the this is the PG paper and this is the UG paper. Go through it, go through both, because the level in terms of GK is quite similar, and even in terms of aptitude. So it's just going to help you either ways, and you just get more to go through and more to study from. So let's say, for example, if I go through a question here, yeah, the painting. Okay, so this is a typical question on paintings. Very you know, kind of predictable style of questions. So what are these predictable styles? Predictable style of questions. Let's say anything to do with let's say art. Okay, art forms. You know, like international art and Indian art. Okay, cartoonists, movies, directors, types of Indian dances, types of world dances, musical instruments. Okay, these are very designers, famous architects and their works. Okay, so there'll be like two categories, international and Indian. So obviously Indian gets a special emphasis, but international as well, they can ask for anything. You have to be both well versed in both international and Indian. So what I mean by is, let's say, for example, what are the most famous paintings in the world, and also what are the most famous paintings in India as an Indian artist and things like that. Now, there is the one thing about GK is there is a difference between working hard and working smart. So what do I mean? So not only you need to go work hard, like work hard is you need to really study, you need to really read as much as information as you can get. You also need to study smart. So how can I study smart? So let's say I go online and I say, you know, most expensive paintings sold. Okay, most expensive paintings sold in the world. So I get the list of the most expensive paintings sold in the world. Or let's say I get, say, most expensive paintings sold in India. Okay, sold in India. So when I go to the most expensive painting sold in India or the most expensive painting sold in the world, I'm hitting my probability of, you know, with the same effort, my probability of the kind of questions that I get. So let's say if I go to the most expensive paintings sold in the world and I get a certain painter, and then I go to that painter and see all his work. Okay, so a smarter way of going about it is most expensive paintings, most highest grossing movies that have hit awards, directors that have been received international awards, international recognition. Satyajit Ray, for example, Pattar Panchali, the movie that has been heavily awarded or nominated all over the place internationally. Or let's say, for example, if I'm studying about automobile logos, I'll go for most expensive cars, 25 most expensive cars. Like for example, many of you all, if you say fastest cars, okay, fastest cars in the world, okay, so many of you all would not have even heard of this brand Koenigsegg, okay, Koenigsegg. So when you hit fastest cars, most expensive cars sold by highest volumes, cars sold in India, or you know, the top things like this will help you to hit your probability higher. Expensive, fastest, or anything with controversy. Another thing is keep reading the newspapers. Like, for example, if somebody like Mario Miranda died, they asked about his cartoon sketches, Mario Miranda. Or if an expensive painting was sold, then there's high probability of that question being asked. Okay. Recently, somebody died in the the maker of your superheroes. So the chances are very high that he will be asked in, or questions about him will be asked in the exam. Okay. So keep reading newspapers with topics related to this. Okay, of course. Now, what else is related to design? Say, for example, color theory, knowing everything about your color theory, color mixing, or, for example, computer terminology related to design, like say, for example, cones, retinas, MP3, MPEG, audiovisual terminology. Okay. So all this is related. So like I was telling you earlier, there are two segments here. One is predictable and one is general, right? So predictable based questions is something that if you hit things like this, you can, your probability is much higher. Anything related to art and design. A lot of it is on edge. Now, if you ask me, is there any particular source to go to? Well, frankly, if you're going, it's quite an open source. So you need to really refer a lot of different places where you can go. Or, like say, for example, if you go to the DK Labs Edge, and a lot of topics have been put here under general knowledge. So you can go over here and you can kind of study a lot of different topics that are already kind of put together out there. Also, taking it, another set of predictable questions here is like, somehow they're like a lot of technology related companies, like say, for example, Amazon, who is the founder of Amazon, who is the founder of Uber, all these, any technology related questions also are quite highly likely to be asked in these exams. I think I'd seen a question somewhere. Yes, who was the founder of Amazon? Yeah, if you look at the MDes paper, question number 10. Yes, see, who is the founder of Amazon? Okay, so color wheel, exactly. So I was telling you about the color wheel, color theory, and that's a question out there. Okay. So technology related entrepreneurs, famous Indians all over the world, all are quite predictable. Okay. Now comes to the unpredictable part. They can even ask you what is the full form of EMI or good GST, how is GST applied and GST applicable and things like that. So some of these questions are a little bit open-ended, and the answer to this, these type of questions would be, I mean, how would you study these questions? The answer would be you have to read as much as you can about, things, topics like this one. The major part of agricultural land in India is under which kind of crop? So at least some basic knowledge about India and things like that will really help. So the answer is you've got to read as much as you can. So the second part of questions which are unpredictable, frankly, it also tests how much of GK you've read over a period of time. This is not something that maybe you can clamp in the last minute, but of course, something like maybe a Malayalam Manorama book or something might be helpful also here to get these certain topics. But be careful, because if you go to GK books and things like that, there'll be a lot of topics, because topics, you need to be smart on which topics you're going to pick. So you got to be careful out there. Okay. So that is some information on GK. Now, going ahead to mental ability, analytical reasoning, visual spatial ability, math. Okay, math is another topic that I'll hit on next. So let's look at some math questions in when you say math, they are testing you for your fundamental math, like your basic ratios or basic arithmetic, mensuration, areas, volumes. So I would say mostly stick to statistics, basic math, ratios, and mensuration. Geometry theory is what you can stick to. Not more than that. No one's going to ask you like limits or calculus or something like that. So if you do look, if you have a look at the UCEED paper, you can see some of the math questions that are given out here. Okay, what is the maximum number of whole cuboids, length 2, breadth 1, and height 1 that can be packed into a larger cuboid of length 3, breadth 3, and height 11? Even if your basic math is good, it's frankly also a test of, you know, aptitude. So it's something that those are strong in math can possibly crack this section. So another question here, of course, this is the 2018 paper. What is the maximum number of equilateral triangles side 3 that can be placed in a square of side 6.8 without overlapping each other? Okay, so that's another type of mensuration question that you need to go through. Let's see what type of question that they have asked in BEAD and NID. So I had seen a question somewhere. Okay, question number 40. Yeah, here. Okay, so if a population of a village increases by 10% every year, find the total population after 3 years if the present population is 1,000. Okay, basic percentages. So this is something that you need to practice, and actually this is something that you can really score. This you can do it fast, and you can really get, you know, for sure you can get your marks here. Okay. Okay, moving on. So yes, design sketching. Let's go to another topic. Perspective. Okay, perspective, 2D, 3D, shading, textures, rendering human figure or objects in perspective. You know, sometimes they can ask you kind of questions also in like perspective, basic perspective. Like I had seen a question somewhere in, on basic perspective. So usually these kind of questions they ask in UCEED, because in UCEED they cannot really ask you for drawing. So they test questions and they okay, yes, question number 35 in MDes here. So if you look at question number 35, yes, I got these questions. Yeah, over here. Okay, which of the pictures below is a fisheye lens view? Easy, but some basic theory of perspective and things like that. Okay.
Please discuss the visual spatial ability in detail. Can't understand that part.
Okay. Okay. And here's another 29. Which of the strips running along the walls of the building in the images represent perspective flaws? So these are some questions that you can do that. Okay, now somebody is asking for a question on visual spatial ability. Okay, so visual spatial ability. What is visual spatial ability? Counting of it based. Okay, let me give you an example for visual spatial ability. It is in two formats. One is 3D and one is 2D. Okay, let's have a look at a 3D type of question for visual spatial ability. This on your UCEED question number paper number 18. This is a very typical question for visual spatial ability. So why do they test you for this? Is because as a designer, as an architect, it's of course very related fields, we should be able to think 3D. If there's objects given, we should be able to look at them in different angles, different directions, like count the number of stacked rectangular pieces in the image shown below. There's another variation to this question. If this whole unit was dipped in paint, count the number of stacked rectangular pieces that would have paint on two sides, on two surfaces. So that's another variation to this kind of question. But this is a very typical visual spatial ability type of a question. Okay, how do you prepare for these questions? There are a lot of course, you can go to Edge. There's a lot of information on Edge, but basically you have a lot of verbal and non-verbal communication type of aptitude question. A lot of books you get. Try and get any book or any source that will help you to get information on these kind of questions. This will only come with practice. This is not something that comes easily. It obviously comes in practice. Another type of visual spatial ability question will be typically, yes, question number 63 in the BDes paper here. If I go down to 63, yes. Which of the following shapes can fill the given figure without any gaps? Again, this is a visual spatial ability 2D. So like I said, 3D and 2D. So this is this was an example for 3D spaces, and this is an example for 2D, a 2D graphic kind of visual spatial ability question. So in fact, visual spatial ability 2D is yes, a little more tougher, but 3D is very easy. That is something that you can really crack, you know. I'm just trying to look for another example for visual spatial ability. I'd seen another question somewhere. Yes, okay, I found one. And there's question 4. Question number 54. Okay. Yes, this is another, can you see this? This is another typical example for a visual spatial ability type of a question. Given our 4 objects in the view A, B, C, D, so they're going to ask you for the view of this object. So this is another typical type of question that is asked here, okay? Okay, mirroring. So mirroring, rotating, these are all typically the kind of questions that are asked in visual spatial ability. Analytical reasoning, of course, statements, arguments, assumptions, statements, conclusions. This again comes with a lot of practice. Let's have a look at one question in let me have a look at the question in the BDes paper. Question number 48. Question number 48. There you go. 52. You need to read the passage carefully, and you need to understand these questions. This is something you need to practice a lot, understand the basic types of analytical reasoning that are asked, inference type of questions, or you know, all the different types of questions you need to just read and you need to really understand. So this is something where, of course, a lot of practice is required. Now, what will you do within the given time that you have? So I would highly recommend, if you have, you know, still not started studying this, I would highly recommend that see the areas that you're strong in, at least get them faster, read the fundamentals, practice a lot, and then go to areas that you find tougher. At least get marks in the areas that you can do well. And of course, theory is extremely important, the theory part of the paper. If you do not pass this paper, if it's 70 marks for NID, and it's almost like 100 marks for UCEED. So you may be very good in your drawing, you may be brilliant in your drawing, but there is no point if you're not able to do well in this section of the paper. Okay, so mental ability. What we'll do is I will just glance through the papers, and we'll have a look at some of the mental ability questions and along the way. Okay, so let's have a look at, say, for example, let's go to the UCEED paper. Again, a very typical question. This is also like a mental ability question. How many triangles are given in the are there in the figure given below? Very typical type of question that is asked. Different objects given, and I'm sorry, different sort of such similar diagrams. Count the number of triangles, count the number of parallelograms, pulleys and levers. For example, a weight is pulled in one side. How many pulleys go in the clockwise direction? How many pulleys go in the right first anti-clockwise direction? So this is another type of question that you can expect. Now there are also a lot of questions like you know, which are IQ related type of questions. Like, say for example, if you I wonder, some of you might have heard of this exam Mensa. MENSA. So Mensa is nothing but a test for IQ, and if you can go online, you can get a lot of reference material for Mensa. If you get any books on NTSE, National Talent Search Examination. Also, there are a lot of, especially in the NTSE, you can look at the mental ability part. There's a lot of information that you can, a lot of practice you can get out there. Or also go online, get any free apps for Mensa, puzzles, aptitude, and try and see if you can, it'll really help you. So daily practice here as much as you can, especially when you're traveling, then whatever really helps. It also exercises your mind and gets you ready for these type of questions. Okay. Anyway, the type of combinations are quite a lot. So I would highly recommend that you all go through these sample papers, see what, go through them, get familiar with the type of questions asked, understand the range of questions, and practice as much as you can. So that's what's going to help a lot. So an example for a multiple set question, on the left is a photograph and on the right are options. So which of these options are part of these photographs? So it's a multiple select. You need to choose from all of these. Let's have a look at some other mental ability questions in the NID BDes paper. Yeah. Let's look at some good ones. What is this? Okay, this is a typical visual spatial ability question. So Aman was playing with his building blocks. He made a structure, 3 views of which are given. So how many blocks did Aman use eventually? So this is another very typical visual spatiality question. You need to imagine the views and imagine the number of blocks that are there. So shall I leave the rest of the time open for question answers?
Yeah, Shaun, if you can go through some of the questions. We've tried attending to some of the questions when you are speaking, but there are some questions which you may want to address.
Okay, just hold on.
If you can go to the questions pane.
Yeah, just a second. Just a second, please hold on. Okay, I'll just try looking at some of your questions and see how best we can answer them. Okay, put this on mute.
It's on YouTube.
Okay. Or basically the speaker off.
Many questions you've been answering. Okay, there are some questions.
Okay, 1 minute, 1 minute. Go to the top. Go to the top. Just a second, I'm going through, 1 minute, just hold on. Just a second. Okay. Okay. Janet Patrao has asked a question. Using DQ Edge, would you recommend me to go through the learning material and then answer the test, or vice versa? Okay, this is a very interesting question. I want you all to listen to this. Okay, using DQ Edge, would you recommend me to go through all the learning material first and then answer the test, or vice versa? Okay. If you go through the learning material first, okay, and not answer the question papers that are there online, or the tests are there online, and in fact, even if you look at DQ Edge, let me just go to DQ Edge. If you go to take a test section, there is here 501 questions and 805 past year questions. Okay, this 805 past year questions are really good. What we have done is all the last 10 years papers, we have put it in here, and there's a lot of practice. All the UCEED, NID, all past question papers. Now, if you go through your material first, what's going to happen is it's going to take you a month, right, to go through. And when you start taking the test, what you'll realize is after a month, okay, what I was paying attention to, what I was focusing on, what I was spending time, you could have wasted a lot of time in certain areas, certain sections, okay? However, I would suggest take a test, especially go online, UCEED website, NID website, actually take the test. Even if you have not started studying at all, take the test time yourself. Then start learning. Again, after some time, take another test. It has to go parallelly. Take a test, learn, take a test, learn. Studying first and then coming and taking a test, no, that's not going to really help them. In fact, that might waste a lot of time at this point of time. Maybe you could have done it earlier, but I would recommend the same thing earlier, but not at this point of time. Okay.
Just answer.
You want to answer? Here, I think you can directly answer. 1 minute.
So we have Umesh Kumar, who's also here with us. Umesh again is the head of DQ Labs, and he's going to be giving his view as well on this.
Yeah. Hi everyone. So what I suggest is, as Shaun has recommended, take a test and then go through the learn content. I'll just give you a brief on what kind of tests we have here. If you look into take a test, You can see here the 501 questions, mock test questions, and 805 past year questions. Okay, so what I suggest is start off with the 501 questions. Okay, so there are 10 sets of question papers. Each set has got 50 questions. Start with set 1. Okay, answer those questions. Now, the moment you answer those questions, now here you see this dashboard. It shows one actionable insight, which basically what it does is, based on your performance in the test, it will identify one particular topic that you should be focusing thoroughly on. Okay, and it shows that particular topic here. Okay, because see, identification, subject is visual spatial ability. For this particular user, the suggestion that is given is go through this particular topic first before you study any other topic. Why? Because out of 95 questions, 64 questions were left unattempted. So what the software does, the Edge platform does, is it tracks all your performances, the kind of responses you're giving, the amount of time you're taking. Okay, and if you actually answer, there are we also collect some information, some metacognitive information which pertains to the method of answering a question. All right, so I hope Dion has explained that to you. Okay, if not, we will cover that aspect as well. So considering all of that and the weightage of various topics that are asked in the NID and the UCEED exam, we prioritize the topic especially for you, and we give you this kind of a suggestion. All right, so in this particular suggestion for this user, it says identification, visual spatial ability, and when you actually click on that, some of these topics are linked to the respective topics, right? So if you come here, you can see 2D to 3D and 3D to 2D identification. So this is a topic that you should be studying well, you should be thorough with. So let us say you have gone through all these questions and you are absolutely thorough. What you can do is you can say mark as done. Okay, so if there is any particular topic that it suggests, you can do that suggestion. Otherwise, you can go back to take a test. You know, so you can follow this suggestion framework that has been given on the Edge platform to help you navigate through the learned content and to speed up your preparation. Okay, so we have these 501 questions with 10 sets. Please do that. And also 805 past year questions. For example, you have a suggestion saying that in the earlier suggestion window, it said that go through 2D to 3D and 3D to 2D identification. So what you can do is, after you do your study, you can come here for 805 past year questions, and you can thoroughly go through these visual 3D based questions or visual 2D based questions. So what we have done here is we have gone through all the past year questions. We have segregated them into specific topics, and we have collated that information and put it here. Okay, so in one go, you can actually answer all the visual 3D based questions that were asked in the previous year's question paper. Okay, so that way you can also check your preparation, how thorough you are with that topic. All right, so yeah, so the 501 questions. Now these 501 questions are very, very specific. We have kind of anticipated and predicted these questions that that have high probability of appearing in the NID and UCEED exams. Now it may not be the exact question, but the sense of that question can be asked. You know, so when you actually go into the exam, so that would not be like a new question for you. You would have actually prepared answering such questions over here. So these are very highly specific questions we have prepared, which are very helpful for you. Please go through them, and then please go through 805 past year questions, and then you do the mock tests. All right, that is regarding what questions to prepare and how to prepare.
Okay, I'm just going to try and see if I can get more questions here. Hold on. 1 minute. Okay. Okay, Sana, a question by Sana Gill. Sana Gill has asked a question. Can you help us answer a few questions in the NID paper, like the creative thinking part? Okay, Sana, the whole creative thinking part is a huge topic by itself. If I sit and discuss, in fact, we might have to have a different webinar only for the creative thinking part.
Sean,
Maybe we could.
if I could interrupt here, yes, we will be having the online marathon session. So maybe during the online marathon classes, we could cover that in detail.
Because doing the creative thinking is a huge. It's huge. So yes, maybe. I mean, what I mean to say is it's going to take at least an hour or 1.5 hours, whatever, trying to explain that. So Sana Gill, what we can do is have another webinar only for creative thinking kind of questions, and maybe you can attend that, and maybe we can solve it there. Okay, we will have we'll try and look at some more questions. Okay, Harish Gautam, will practicing a lot of spatial ability questions improve our speed in solving these questions? Yes, you have to practice, only then it's going to help you improve your speed. In fact, there was a question right on top by Kavya Kanadia. What we have to study for UCEED and NID. Okay, fine. This is very general. I'll go back once again to the syllabus pattern here. Mental ability, analytical reasoning, visual spatial ability, and I went mental ability. Look for verbal reasoning, non-verbal reasoning. Okay, you can get a lot of books, a lot of topics, DQ Edge, a lot of information online, verbal reasoning, non-verbal reasoning. These are the kind of things. And in fact, actually, the topics are a finite set. It's not like an infinite set. So there are maybe about 20 to 30 largely broadly classified topics. In fact, even if you solve some of these topics, you can still do reasonably well. Okay, so you can also go through the topics here. Yeah, so even in mental ability, analytical reasoning, visual spatial ability, like if you go through mental ability, blood relations, coding, decoding, direction, distance and direction sense. A lot of questions are asked in distance and direction sense, puzzles, seating arrangement, analogies, completion of series, paper folding, series and sequences. These are the different types of topics there. In fact, yes, it's all put out here nice and easy for you in Edge. Seating arrangements, statement assumptions, statement conclusions, course of action, passage and conclusion, assertion and reasoning, cause and effect, syllogism, and data sufficiency. Okay. In fact, yes, all your topics are here. So for Kavya, possibly this might help you get visual spatial ability. Yes, counting of figures, mirror images, shape, 2D shape perception, 2D verbal translation, counting of cubes. But you get it. You can just log in here and Platonic solids. You're getting the entire topics out here. Okay, of course, besides your GK topics, something like that. Okay, let's go to another type of question. How do we study for the GK NID exam? Any suggested books or sites? Yes, you can go here, especially the GK topics here in general knowledge in out here, which is shown in the screen, is something that you need to do. Now, please understand, when you study GK, you need to really understand it in depth. For example, if I'm studying about photography and if I'm studying about ISO, right? It's not just good reading about ISO. I need to really understand. So maybe a small YouTube video also will help you. Like the kind of question typically they'll ask here would be, say if I pull up ISO here, it'll be like, it not only will they ask you what is ISO, but they can show you two comparative images and say which has a higher ISO value or a lower ISO value. So this is not something that you can do unless you've really gone through a YouTube video and understood manufacturing processes, things like that. So of course, once you know your basic topics, then all external websites, internet, YouTube videos related to those topics will help, or any general knowledge book. Like I said, be careful. It has a lot of topics in it. Stick to the topics that are related to the kind of questions asked in the exam. Okay, and yes, Mensa, NTSC, anything related to that, for your aptitude, mental ability, and visual spatial ability, as well as mainly this. Analytical reasoning will be a different topic by itself. Yeah. So let's see other questions. No, Manat Sidhu has asked, are the webinars free or will they be paid from tomorrow? No, the webinars are free, right? They're free. No,
they're paid. Beyond can answer that.
Beyond, can you answer that question? Manat has asked whether the webinars are free or will they be paid from tomorrow?
Well, these are a set of introductory webinars. Okay, so these webinars are free. So today we're covering NID UCEED. Tomorrow we're covering NIFT, and day after we're covering NATA and JEE paper 2. But this will be followed by a set of other webinars, which is called the 9-day marathon session, where in 9 days, over a period of 9 days, we will give you an overview on each topic in a little more detail. But for that, we need to use specialized faculty who are experts in their field. And for that, we'll have to charge. We'll let you know the pricing for that in a bit. Okay.
Okay. Next question is by Rini. How do you prepare for color theory? Okay. Now, color theory is a very, very important topic. Some topics are very important. Color theory is one of them. These are like I told you in the past, predictable, unpredictable. Color theory is a highly predictable website. How do you study color theory? Okay. Color theory, color wheel, color psychology, color mixing, color values. This is something it's a very interesting topic. It's a finite topic. It's not like you can go through it. Like I would highly recommend with the basics. Okay, what are primary, secondary, tertiary colors? What are additive primaries? What are subtractive primaries? What is RGB, RYB, CMYK? What's the difference between print? Colors used in print or colors used in electronics, that is additive primaries or subtractive primaries. What are the color? Go online, you get a lot of information on Edge about the whole color, different types of color theory, like analogous colors, opposite colors, adjacent colors, split complementary, color mixing, how do I mix colors, what do I get the important colors, color values like hue, saturation, brightness, hex codes. There are a lot of YouTube videos on hex codes and things like that. Even say, for example, if I say RGB, right? Say, for example, if I say 1 minute. Say if I say RGB, and if I say RGB is say 80, 80, 80, you should roughly kind of know where this is. Or if I say 25500, or like say for example 80, 80, 80 is gray, okay, and RGB is obviously your electronics. It's an additive primary. So now whether is 20, 20, 20 light gray, or is 250, 250, 250 dark gray, you need to understand, right? So 20, 20, 20 is hardly any value coming out, so there's hardly any color, so it's obviously quite dark. Or 255, 255, 255 is a lot of light coming out, so it's very light gray. So at least you should know the basics. You should go online and you should read something like that. So yes, color theory is very important. Another thing about color theory is about also color psychology, like okay, what colors are used preferred for prisons, for kindergarten schools, for offices. Color psychology, what does red represent, green represent, violet, purple, all that really helps. Yes, color theory, very important topic. This is something that you really need to know. Quite often asked questions. Okay, I hope that answers your question, really. I'm not the best in drawing, but what are the topics I must do? Okay. So somebody has asked this question. You're not best in drawing. Obviously, even if you're not good in drawing, you still have a good chance in the exam nowadays. Like say, for example, if 5 years ago, 6 years ago, the papers were heavily drawing oriented, but nowadays UCEED as well as NID round 1 is a lot of theory oriented. So yes, even if you're not too good in drawing, you can still do very well in the exam. Of course, make sure that you practice as much as you can if you clear round 1 before you go to round 2 for NID, that is. For UCEED, obviously, there's no round 2. So what you can do, what are the topics for you? I would suggest perspective, definitely very important. Objects, human, animal, textures. This is very important. 2D graphic is something that you can pick up fast, especially in 2D graphic. You can look at pictograms, logos, things like that will really help you. So, but again, that's huge. I would suggest do as much as you can. If you're somewhere close, if you can get some help for drawing, nothing like it. Okay. Reading comprehension, Purna Shreya. So can you suggest to go about passage reading comprehension questions? Okay, reading comprehension also, if you go on Edge, there's a whole section very much covered in detail. Analytical reasoning. Okay, so analytical reasoning is, there's a lot, all the different things are explained out here. Also, there's a very interesting section. Don't get confused between reading comprehension and English. They are two different topics. Reading comprehension is more of aptitude and understanding. So whereas English will be more like idioms, phrases, basic grammar, things like that. So idioms and phrases is more like what's going to be asked in English rather than reading out there. So, okay, analytical reasoning is different. Just basic reading comprehension, reading for an English section is different. So I don't really understand whether you're asking about analytical reasoning or English, but get the differentiation, and either one of them is there on Edge, is something you can practice with. Okay. What should we concentrate more on the NID paper, Nimisha? I would definitely say concentrate on your strengths. Now, if you're good in drawing, make sure that you have to slot yourself. Like you have to keep, I would say, 50% of your day for drawing and 50% of your time for aptitude, or even maybe 60% for aptitude and 40% for drawing. So I would slot that out. Because aptitude is very important, reading is very important. But whenever you're tired, you can always keep switching. But make sure it's at least a 40%, 60% combination. That's 40% for drawing. If you're really good in drawing, then you can obviously spend more time in aptitude. But if you're good in drawing, make sure that you concentrate on speed sketching. You've got to draw fast. Okay. How to, Shivani, how to improve perspective and human figures and proportions in the time left? Oh, again, that's another thing where you'll have to join a session purely for drawing, because that's a lot of tips and tricks out there, and that's a whole webinar and sessions by itself. So the answer to that question, you'll have to ask for more webinars very specific to perspective, human figure, proportions in the time left. Yeah. And MDes, BDes, it's the same. So your skills required are exactly the same. Okay. Let's. Okay. Again, Harish has asked another question. Is there SEED Part B practice questions, sketching questions on DQ Edge? Here you'll have to, or DQ Edge, is there sections? No, SEED we will discuss later, right? So we'll have to have a different section for SEED, and no, the seminar is not for SEED. So we'll have another topic for SEED, and we'll cover it in another day during the week. But a lot of common topics are there, which might be helpful for you for UCEED as well. Okay, let's see. Oh, okay. Some questions are coming. Like, say, for example, Kirtana, can you make a list of topics with their weightage? And somebody else asked, how much is GK? How much is GK a percentage of these questions? Well, you can actually literally go through these the sample questions of UCEED and NID there online and glance for yourself.
We can also put in the breakup of what percentage is for GPA.
Yeah, but that keeps varying, you know, slightly here and there. So it's, I would say, roughly, Umesh, we would say GK could be neatly about 15%, 15 to 20% in that range. Sometimes it could be more. You'll have to just go through the questions and you'll have to see. And even, frankly, it keeps varying. So I would highly recommend the answer to that. How much percentage comes from ability? How much comes from visual spatial ability? The best is to go through the sample questions that are question papers that are all given there online. UCEED as well as NID. That, and like I said, whether you're BDes or MDes, please go through the BDes and MDes papers. It is both very, it's both good practice. If you're a BDes person, go to the MDes paper, it will help you, and vice versa. All the questions will, because they're quite similar. They're quite similar. Okay, like I said, Rini, for topics under retail experience, MDes, we will keep it for the master's webinar, and then you can, we can go through that. Okay, keep any questions. If I missed out, you can please retype them in. Maybe I can get them because some questions are really gone on the top. So if you can type in your questions, maybe I can answer your questions. Harish Gautam, how do I improve sketching? We'll honestly, that's, we need to have a sketching webinar, and you need to join that webinar. Harish, you need to find out when the DK Lab sketching webinars are happening, and only that will help you because that's a huge topic. Purna, is there any source for previous NID papers? Yes. All the questions are there in Edge, in that past question papers, 805 questions, take a test. And if you go through here, 805 past year questions, a lot of past NID and UCEED papers have been put up there. So, okay. When will the webinar for SEED be held? It will be held sometimes during this week. Please look out for the announcement. Maybe in the next 3-4 days it will be held. So SEED and NID PG. So, and even I would recommend even the UG students to join that. It is useful for you also because a lot of tips and tricks given there or information given there will be helpful for you as well. Okay, how does the referral link help me? Karthik, how does the referral link help me buy the test? I do not know. That you need to talk to, give a call to the DK Labs helpline, and they will.
Shaun, I will take that. I will take that question.
Yeah, you can call Dion.
So I'll give you another 3 minutes to answer all the questions, whatever remaining questions you would like to take. And after that,
Okay.
I would like to take a session on DQ Edge, how to use DQ Edge effectively so that people who use it can use it effectively to the advantage of the next 6
Okay, Harish is asking how will I receive a notification?
So notifications will be sent by email as well as SMS. Okay, and they'll have to look out for that.
Okay, interesting question by Kirtana. Which is easier to clear, NIFT, UCEED, or NID? That's an interesting question. Kirtana Chandrasekhar, which is easier to clear, NIFT, UCEED, or NID? I think definitely, in my experience, NIFT is the easiest exam, followed by NID, and then I think UCEED is the toughest. Very clearly, in that order. UCEED is the toughest to clear. There's no doubt about it. Another problem is UCEED has a less number of seats, and that's the reason why it makes it even more difficult. NID, the advantage is the drawing part. So if you're good in drawing, you can clear NID, whereas UCEED is the toughest. I hope that answers your question, Kirtana. Okay, which platform will help me improve questions based on image and statement relationship? So it means like EDMs and things like that, right? Images and statement relationship. I think it's DQ Edge only. There's no other. Yeah, DQ Edge is your best bet to get these kind of questions because something like this is very difficult to get. See, now most of these questions very difficult to just get them generally anyway. So your best bet is DQ Edge, I would say. Okay, how do I increase seconds? Are the BDes courses and NID at NIFT a good alternate for NID? Good question, Sneha. I would say yes. If you, I would say stick to design. Like say for example, if I want product design or I want visual communication, and if I'm not getting it there, you know, you can go to any college that gives you design. But I would say number one, stick to your field. Number two, number one is stick to your area of interest. Number two, stick to your college. So yes, ultimately do your BDes course and do what you really want to do. And nowadays there is huge demand for BDes designers. The industry is really opening it up. So yeah, you have to look at alternative sources because yes, NID, unfortunately the seats are less and you have to have your backup plans. Yes. But I would say, like say for example, if I'm interested in visual communication or if I'm interested in product design and don't get NID, I will not go to another college or say take apparel design just because I've not got the stream that I wanted. I'd rather go to a college where I get the particular course that I wanted. Yes. Is all the material in DQ Edge free to be to access? Some of it is free, Sanagil. Some of it is free. Some of it is paid for.
I will take that question now.
Yeah. Okay. Dion will explain. Dion will explain that to you. Okay. What are the top institutes for visual communication in India? Okay. Obviously, I would visual communication. I would say NID Ahmedabad, IIT Bombay, top places for visual communication. For example, Sneha Balaji, the rupee symbol has come out of the visual communication design from IIT Bombay. Is there seed part B practice questions on Edge? Okay, Harish, I think yes. So to answer that question, you need to join. I don't think some of those sketching questions are there for seed part B, but we can have them as there are online. You can take an online what do you call a course in which these questions are discussed, the sketching questions. Okay. Oh, but practice questions, yes, there will be practice questions. Which private institutes are good for design? Okay. How shall I? Okay, this is interesting. How shall I ask doubts after the seminar? I will give the. You can take down Dion's number. 98457 03456. 98457.
What we'll do is we'll keep it to the board number. Okay.
Okay. 959 100 1000. Yeah, you can call on that number and then you can ask you can message your doubts. 959 100 1000. Okay. What are the top institutes for graphic design and animation apart from NID and IIT? Apart for graphic design and animation. Well, the top institutes that I have in mind is like Srishti, Bangalore. There's a good French institute in Bangalore opening out called Strat, Pune, SID, MIT, Ahmedabad, UID, and DJ Academy, Coimbatore, UPS, Dehradun. There's another, yeah, so possibly these are some of the good institutes. How do you manage time between sections A, B, and C for UCEED? Like I said, first go to section C, answer it fast, then go to section A, and then last do section B. Once you've done with section B, don't waste too much time on section B. Section B can be quite confusing, so answer C, A thoroughly and come back to B. But in the end, make sure that you answer, or you make sure that you answer everything in A and answer everything in B. And like I said, familiar yourself with the interface before you go. Yes, Harish, that's the number, 959 100 1000. Yes, that's the number.
Okay, Sean, I'm guessing almost all our questions are answered. So can I take it to the next round because we're running
Yes,
short
please
of
take.
time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, is there any webinar on JEE paper 2 and mains NATA? Yes, there is. Tomorrow there's a webinar on NATA and paper 2.
Okay. Right.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
thank
take
you,
it over.
Shaun. You can please be available in
Thank you.
case there are more questions. If you can answer the questions offline.
I am going to repeat this webinar after some time, after a few days. I'm going to repeat this webinar, so you could join again if you like. But the whole thing will be repeated, and maybe I can answer more questions. Okay, I'm going to repeat this webinar more, or rather have a part 2 to this webinar or something like that. So just keep a lookout for it. Maybe you can join. Okay, thank you. Yeah, bye.
Okay. Just 1 second. Yeah. Can you please type if you all can see my screen? I just would like to take you through some of this. Just give me a second. Give me a second. All right. So I think you all can see my screen. I will move it aside. Okay. So there are a few things which are very critical for you to know. Okay. The moment you enter DQ Edge, the first thing you will see is this page. And this is your My Courses page, and it's very important that you see this and understand what this is. So here you select your course, and you have the choice to select either learn or take a test. That we would leave it up to you. Like Umesh suggested, you can probably start with the 501 questions, and let's go with that. Okay. So say you take, or let me select NID, right? Now say in this take a test section. Okay, so let me do one thing. Let me just do this. Okay, so what we will do is understanding DQH. Now this next session is understanding DQH. We'll go through learn, we'll go through take a test, and the rest of the aspects on DQH. Okay, so coming down to learn, to take a test. Let's start off with take a test. Now here, this is very important. This is what Umesh has suggested. Now, what he says is you can go down. Set 1 is absolutely free. Anyone can take this set 1. And what we want to do is talk about this cognitive analytics. Now, let me show you what it is and how it is relevant to you and how important it is. Okay. So I've already started my test and I would like to take this through. Okay. Now, say question number 19. Or let's take a different question. Okay, match the brush stroke with the brush. Okay, can anyone answer this question for me, please? Right, so if I had to answer this question, let me say, I would say probably B looks like 1. Okay, I would match B with the brush 1, and I would match probably D with brush 3. Okay, so I'm going to look at this options, B with brush 1 and D with brush 3, and I'm going to select this as my option. But what I want to do is notice what happens to this submit button. Okay, and it's very important that you understand this. So let me click on the submit button, and it's asking me, how did I solve this question? Did I use my knowledge? Did I randomly guess, or did I use a process of elimination? Now here clearly I used the process of elimination because I matched B with 1 and D with 3, and then I saw where that option is and I'm selecting elimination. Okay. Now similarly, let's go to the next question. Okay, which of the following colors is recommended for mental asylums for its calming effect on inmates? Okay, say I have no clue what this answer is, so I'm just going to say maybe navy blue, and I'm going to say randomly. Okay, I have no clue. So this question, say that I use this question as an example, and I say come to the conclusion that this is the answer, and I've used my knowledge or a formula to find this out, so I will say this. Now, as we go through this entire set of questions, um, two things happen. One is on the front end, what the system is showing us is that it's saying, Dion, okay, you got this answer right, you got this answer wrong. Okay. But on the back end, it's telling me, Dion, so let me just end this topic here, okay, and say finish my attempt. So what it's effectively telling me is a few things. Okay, let me show you this. Yeah. So on the front end, it's only telling me, okay, you got this answer right, this answer wrong. But on the back end, it's saying, okay, Dion, you used a strategy for this. Okay. So let me say, now this gives you the straight off. My attempt is this. This is the question, this is the answer, I got it wrong, or I got it right. And there's a small little explanation after that as well. So you get answers to all of your questions. Okay. And also, what it shows me is in each topic of those 50 questions, how I fared. Okay. So I get an understanding that this had various topics in it and how I fared. But more importantly, it also tells me how many questions I've attempted using my knowledge and how many of that I got right or wrong. And why it's important is because it is for me to understand that yes, I attempted 8 questions thinking I had the knowledge for it, or I used a formula, but I got only 2 of them right. So that means I have a conceptual understanding, misunderstanding. Okay, so I need to revisit my concepts. Now here, elimination. I used the process of elimination. I should have got all of them right, but I still got them wrong. But however, my ability to eliminate is better than my knowledge, that way. And randomly is never a good choice anyway, so that's never a good option. But what happens is that this system is what we call cognitive analytics, and these analytics help you understand your knowledge better, whether you really know the topic, whether you have a conceptual understanding or a very superficial understanding. And that's what is the best part of this. Okay, you can click here, go to the exact questions, what you got right, what you got wrong, and how you approach this. Again, it has the explanations, and it also has extra resources for you to read. Okay, so this is an interesting part of the cognitive analytics. Other than what we've discussed here, you have your time-based analytics, you have the way you use these statistics, and this tells us the quality of how I've wasted so much of time. Okay, so very important that you understand this conceptually and you are able um, to do this well. Now last year, at least 4 of these questions had come straight off into the exam. Even before the NID exam, 4 of these questions had come in. So these are very, very powerful questions. And I'll give you a small background as to how we've done these questions. Yeah, so we've gone through every past question paper over all these years. Okay, we've identified the topics. And if I can go into my admin panel and show you, let me just show you one of the things. Okay, I'm not going to show you much, but if I can show you, okay, there are at least 275 topics that have at least 250 topics that have come before, but we have put in another 25 extra because all the past question papers only about 250 topics have come. The rest of the topics we have predicted that have not come so far but have a possibility of coming. So the way we have gone about creating our material for DQ Edge is very, very scientific. and very useful. Okay. Now again, here this user, we can see that she's prepared herself for design, but incidentally, she's also prepared herself for fashion or architecture as well. Okay, so there are different topics covered in different exams, but you get to know how much you've covered in other topics as well. Okay, that's a small advantage. So what we have here is of course the 501 experimental questions or predicted questions. We have past year question papers. Now past year question papers have been divided not based on the question paper, but we have broken it up into topics and it's put topic wise. So you can actually take visual 3D based questions that have come in all the exams previously, and it's here for you. So it's easily accessible, and so you can prepare well and much better. And then of course we have a few mock tests. The NID and SEED and UCEED mock tests are out here specifically for you. Yeah, and this is about take a test. So what happens is under take a test, of course, we've discussed the type of tests available, which is 501 questions, mock tests, and 805 past question papers. We've also discussed the answer input system, which gives you cognitive analytics. Okay, now let's go to learn. So as far as learn is concerned, again, topics are separated. Topics are separated into subjects. Let's say mental ability, analytical reasoning, visual spatial ability. Each of these is a subject, and under each subject there are subtopics, what we call the different subtopics, chapters in each subject, and under each chapter there are subtopics. Okay, so just to show you some of these, what we have is say an artist, three of his major paintings, some key information of what it's called and when it was made and how much it was sold, and you can see this information presented to you in a very, very concise manner. Okay, now also important to note that you may not remember too many details of each painting, but what you can do is you can see a trend. Okay, so it's organized in a manner where you can probably recall better. Okay, so that's the way information is organized here on DQH. Please use this, and if I click any topic, you will get something or the other free. For example, visual spatial ability, counting of figures is free. Please use this. Mental ability, you have blood relations, which is free. So there's a lot of good stuff which is free, and it also tells you how much you have covered from what you are supposed to cover. So this is just a sea of information. Okay. We have another 5 to 10 minutes left. So then you have discuss over here. So when you click on discuss, you can actually ask a question. So this would be the question. This would be where you ask a question on your right hand side top corner. And what you can do, what will happen is someone will answer this question for you. Okay. So this is an interesting aspect. Okay. Now, another interesting aspect is this daily quiz. It's a daily general knowledge quiz. Please take this every day because we have 10 new questions every day. And think about it. For the next 60 days, you have 10 questions into 60 days. That's 600 absolutely relevant GK questions coming along. Okay. So take this religiously, make sure you don't miss out, and look out for the leaderboard, see where you are placed. Okay. So that's that. If you want to read some articles, we have some articles out here for these exams, the present exams, and then we have past exams as well. How the seed topper of last year, Srinag, has cracked his exam. We have interviews with our past students. We have there's a lot of information here for all exams. Okay. Plus, if you want to apply to colleges, you apply. You can see here there are a few colleges listed out here. we intentionally kept this basic so that you just click on these details. You see the basic information what you need to see, okay, and then you can also visit the college website and you can apply. If you click on this apply button, um, an email will go to the college and the college will connect with you, okay. So we keep this directly between you and the college, okay. So that's about using understanding DQ Edge and how to use DQ Edge, okay. So we've discussed that. Let me see, there are a few questions. Okay, someone wants to know about the referral link. Okay, right. I'll take these few questions in a bit, but let me just finish what I need to finish. The next steps. Okay, so the next steps. Now, especially for the participants of this particular webinar. Okay, we are going to give you DQ Edge access at 70% off for those who've not taken Edge access, and it's only going to be limited for the next 2 hours, specifically for the participants of today's webinar. Okay, we do not have this. It's not open. It's not given to anybody else. It's just for these users. Okay. The next option that you have to prepare is the 9-day marathon classes. The 9-day marathon classes is what we cover online. We will cover a lot of the topics. I mean, we'll cover everything online, but in a very concise manner, spread over 2-hour webinars like these. Over 9 days, we'll cover everything in in as much detail as possible, so that you can use it along with your DQ Edge. The pricing of this will be paid. The 9-day marathon classes will be paid, but we'll let you know the prices of this in an email, maybe tomorrow or day after tomorrow. In a couple of days, we will announce it. Look out for the pricing email and the registration email. Okay. The next thing I would like to say is that DQ Labs is located all across at various cities. We're in Bangalore, in Pune, in Chennai, in Mangalore, and Thrissur. So we have 5 centers across Bangalore. We have 3 in Pune, and we have some beautiful faculty, beautiful centers. We have fantastic faculty. So those of you who feel the need to actually join us for a crash course, you can. You're most welcome to join us for a crash course. Okay. You can take down these numbers in case you'd like to contact us directly. And in case you need to get in touch with us directly, you can also call us on this number regarding this, or send us an email about this. Okay. Now, there's someone who's asked us about the referral program. I would like to take this topic of the referral program. Just a second. All right. Okay. Now, if you click on, all of you will probably see, those who have not joined us for any. So all DQ Lab students get the DQ Edge access by default. It's included in the package. So even if you join a crash course, you will get the access by default. Okay. But those who do not have access yet, you can click on buy. Okay, and the pricing is here, so you can choose your 2019 exam, and the pricing out here. It's 5,000 rupees for learn, 10,000 for take test, and another 15,000 for both as a combination. Okay, but however, like I said, if you click on buy now, okay, you can put in the code GET70, okay, and you can apply it, and you get it for 70% off. Okay. Now, there is another option though. Okay, so say I click here and I go to buy content, and let me go to learn. Okay. Now, there's two ways I could get access to this. Okay, I can click on blood relations and I can click to buy, but we do have something called a referral link. Okay, let me just get this. Okay, so just look out for this. So if I to unlock this test, I need to share my referral link with two others. Okay, and this is my referral link. I just all I need to do is share this with two other people who are trying to who are attempting to participate in these exams, answering these exams for this year. And once they create their accounts, you will get this one topic free. Okay, but as you go, it gets progressively more. So you need to refer 20 others to get the entire thing for free. Okay, so that's a referral link for you. But in case you would like to get it directly, then you can just pay for it. Okay, you can use the promo codes to pay for it. The next thing is Karthik, I hope I've answered your question. The minimum amount of marks to be scored in NID to go to the next level. Shri Sneha Sudarshan. So Shri Sneha, what you can do is the cutoff for round one always changes every year. Okay, so it's in the 60 to 70 range, but it cannot be predicted. This year, if the cutoff if the exam is tougher, then the cutoff will come down, or if it's easier, the cutoff will go up. Okay. When is the webinar, Naveen ji? When is the webinar on SEED and NID for PG students? It'll probably be on Tuesday. So please look out for it on Tuesday. We will announce it. Okay. Rakshita Singhi and is asking what is the use of earned points on DQ. So one thing is that when you earn points, it tells us that you are very you're participating in this. You're very proactive in your preparation, and that you are um, earnestly working towards your goal. Okay. Now, at this point of time, we are working with various schools to give you kind of it may not be it cannot be the IITs or the NIDs, but if you click on the apply to colleges link, we are working with schools to kind of subsidize their application fee uh, for for the people who've scored high points, because it shows that these people are keen and they've put in a lot of effort and that they're interested in the subject. Um, so 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 that's why we want to reward those who are keen on applying. Okay, but there'll be two things. You'll have to apply to the college through this apply to college link. Okay, and only then you will get the scholarship on the application fee, right? um any more questions? Is the offer code will the offer code be provided for the Tuesday at the PG webinar? We haven't taken a call on that, Naveen, so that we'll have to decide at that stage. Okay, but just to give you an idea, we have not. So we did offer this 70% off for 10 hours somewhere in the middle of October, and after that it's not been there. Okay, so even if we do give this offer, it'll be it's not going to be a very easily available thing. Okay. Harish Gautam, I want to be a car designer. What else could I do? And is there demand? Yes, of course there is tremendous demand. Okay, but you'll have to call us up on 99 on the phone number, and we'll talk to you about that in detail. Okay. Ankita Srivastava is asking a question: is the NID prelims test an offline test or an online test? Okay, NID is offline, and UCEED is online. Okay, so would you suggest what would you suggest as a backup plan in case none of the design exams are cleared? Would you suggest joining a private institute or taking a gap year and revisiting the exam? Okay, this is a good question from Kirtana. See, there are for specifically UG. Okay, there are about 340 seats. So 220 seats in the NIDs plus whatever the new NIDs come up. So say if we assume that 60 seats in at NID Jorhat and Bhopal. So maximum there will be about 340 seats in NIDs, and if we consider the IITs, that is 105 seats plus IIT Hyderabad. So say another 30 seats if we can assume. That will be 135 seats. So totally there are not more than about 400 and say 500 seats available for everyone. And of these 500 seats, 250 would be for reserved candidates, and the remaining 250 would be approximately uh, for the general merit category. Okay, so it is challenging. There are about 20-30,000 students applying or answering these exams. Okay, it's around 30,000. So it is challenging, okay, but you need to give it your best shot. You need to prepare well, and you need to focus on these. But having said that, not everyone's going to go through. So you need to have a backup plan. We do recommend that you have a backup plan. Look through the colleges, and we'll have a separate session on colleges. We'll have another session on webinars, webinar session on which colleges you can look at for what. Okay, but for this, we would also like you to connect with us directly at our studios. Okay. Is there a post webinar on JEE Mains Paper 2 and NATE? Yes, there is a webinar on JEE. I'm not sure what Rakshita you mean by post webinar. Yeah. Okay. So Rakshita, I'm not sure what you mean by post webinar, but yes, we will have a webinar before the exam as well as after the exam. Okay. So we'll have that. No, Sneha Balaji, if you've already applied to UID, you've already applied. That's you're not going to get anything, any scholarship. Okay. Um, so is 70% offer available only for 2 hours? Yes, it's going to be available only for 2 hours today. Okay. However, will there be any offers in the coming days? We do not know. We've not yet taken a call on that. We will decide that. Okay. IIT Hyderabad has only 10 seats. Is there any scope for designers in the film industry? Of course, there is scope for designers in the film industry. How do you think? How do you think movies like Avatar are made? You know, so you need visual communication designers, you need set designers, you need fashion designers, you need designers at all levels. You need product designers. So in the film industry, there is tremendous scope for design. So of course. Um, Sure. Naveed ji, yes, we will consider your request. Okay. So, right, we've exceeded this webinar by another 10 minutes. So I hope we've been able to answer all your questions. I hope you're happy with this webinar. And if you would like this webinar, please give us a thumbs up, recommend DQ Labs, give us some good reviews, recommend DQ Edge. We'd be very happy if you can motivate us. We are working hard. Visit us at our centers. Even if you don't join our programs, come visit us, interact with us. We'll be very happy. Again, we have centers all across India. Um, yeah, so contact us, be in touch and engage, and please use the platform very well. Okay. So I hope we've been able um, to address everyone's questions, and thank you all for participating and taking the time out. We will end this webinar now. Okay. Yep.